What's going on, guys? Well, it is time for an update on the 2025 Kawasaki ZX6R 636, and it has a whopping 348 miles on the clock. So what I want to talk about in this video are some of the modifications that I've already done to this bike, and what are some upcoming modifications that I cannot wait to get knocked out for you guys, as well as a must-do modification if you're out really nailing the twisties with one of these. So let's dive into it. So guys, let's get some nerd stuff out of the way real quick. Let's talk about the suspension. Normally I have a really nice spreadsheet put together, but in this case, we're just gonna go off of this right here. So up front, we've got 35 millimeters of rider sag. That's about 1.5 turns from fully seated counterclockwise. We've got a lot of preload dialed in. This bike, when you're under very hard braking, is 12 millimeters from the very bottom of the stroke. So all in all, not too bad. We got the settings where we needed to, but it took all the settings we could get. Now, on compression, I am 2.5 turns from fully seated. And on rebound, I am 2 3/4 turn from fully seated. Out back, we're rolling with about 37 millimeters of rider sag with about 7 millimeters of free sag. That keeps this bike pretty well balanced going through some of the faster sweepers. Compression is 1.5 turns out, and rebound is also 1.5 turns out, which is the stock value. So to put that in perspective, guys, I am just the other side of 200 pounds when I am in gear. And the bike, in terms of how it gets down the road, deals with imperfections, expansion joints, stuff like that, does exceptionally well. And I gotta say, I have no complaints with how this bike feels riding down the road. Even on the side of the tire, it feels nice. It's very compliant. It deals with the higher loads absolutely beautifully. So the way that it's set up now, although I probably would say not really a track setup for somebody of my weight, if the motorcycle were to have a different exhaust, which takes about 20 pounds off the bike, and if I shed about 20 pounds, there would certainly be a little bit more room for adjustment and would tighten it up just a bit. But I gotta say, in general, really happy with how this bike gets down the road. So what have we done so far? Well, we've got a set of New Rage mirror block-offs. That windscreen is, I'm guessing it's like an MRA knockoff. It's super inexpensive off of Amazon. So I love it, love the look. It's incredibly clear. Every bit as good as something you'd spend a ton of money on, I'll tell you that. We've got the New Rage tail tidy. And that pretty much wraps up everything that's been done. Oh, I'm sorry. And we've got the cow cover out back. That is the inexpensive one off of eBay as well. So, didn't spend a whole lot of money on accessories for this bike, and it all turned out really good. So what's coming for this bike? Well, quite a bit. We've got a new rear sprocket coming. The bike comes with a 520 chain setup. I am going down one sprocket. So I'm going to a 42 tooth rear sprocket to give this bike a little bit longer legs. I know that there's quite a few guys out there that'll go up one tooth up front. I'm just going to split the difference between the two. This setup, the way that it will be, I should say, when it comes back, once it has the exhaust, which we'll talk about in a minute, with the tune, it'll give the bike a top speed of around 155-ish miles per hour, maybe 160 on a GPS. That's plenty for a middleweight. I don't need a whole lot of top speed with a bike like this. And so it's splitting the difference going down one tooth out back. For the most part, guys, I'm really not trying to do any top speed runs with this thing. Not that it's unstable or anything, but I've got a bike if I want to go blast. And this thing is just really more for the fun of having a middleweight, but it is going to need a little bit of gear taken out of it once the exhaust and once the tune and once the velocity stacks go on this bike. So speaking of the exhaust, we are going to be going with a full M4 Tech 1 carbon. M4 does a phenomenal job putting exhaust together, and I got to support a Texas-based company, y'all. But they're top of the food chain when it comes to exhaust for these bikes, so we're going with that full system. We are going to go with a set of TST velocity stacks. Gonna go with a DNA filter, and then we're gonna go with a tune. So all in, this bike is gonna be set up, and it's gonna be pretty much ready to rip at that point. Definitely looking forward to bringing you guys updates as they come with this bike. I have found myself really loving riding this bike for the most part. But one of the first mods that has to get done before any of the hot rod stuff gets done is these Pirelli Diablo Rosso 4s have got to go. So let me tell you a little bit about why that is. Guys, I ride fairly aggressively. Going through corners, I absolutely love having these bikes on the side of the tire. Outright power doesn't really impress me. I ride all kinds of motorcycles for riding reviews, and yeah, I'm more about just having fun. How does the bike translate fun? And getting the bike on the side of the tire, that's what motorcycles are there for, right? Well, at least these kind. Here's the problem though, with these tires on this bike, I have had more slips and more kickouts of the rear tire than any other motorcycle that I've ever ridden with any other tire. In fact, a couple of things. One, since I'm talking about the rear, I had the rear end of this bike kick out on me on a left-hand turn significantly enough to where I actually thought that I had a blowout the way that I did on the GSX-R 750. It kicked out a full 6 or 8 inches, and that wasn't even me pouring the coal to it. It was literally me coming through transitional maintenance throttle into pouring the power to it, but I wasn't even at wide open yet, and right as I was rolling into the throttle, that tire kicked out. No dust, no anything, but that is not the first time that's happened. It's actually happened now. If I'm saying 3 times, I'm forgetting the 4th. The front is a little bit different story. The Rosso 4 up front, although it seems to hold a line pretty well, it's still a little bit sketchy. And the funny thing about it, these tires, and listen, if you guys have a magic air pressure to run these things at, please let me know. But it doesn't seem to matter what pressure I run it at. If I run it at very low pressure, very high pressure, the normal pressure that most of us guys run, which is like, around 35 up front, 36 out back, 37 out back, it still feels like they're way overinflated. So I don't know. I don't have any confidence in those tires at all. Matter of fact, I'll even go so far as to say this. Here, let me just show you guys something. So here's the GSX-R 1000. After I rode this bike, and I was sketched out, it was like, it was just weird. The way that this bike just had no real tire feel to it. I went out and grabbed this bike and just had to get a palate cleansing run with this thing, and got this thing on the side of the tire, powering out of corners. I mean, it leaves a nice patch as you are exiting. The S23 out back and the S22 up front combination is so good in terms of building confidence and having a ton of grip. That's what a sport bike tire is supposed to be. This thing, which doesn't make near the power of my GSX-R 1000, it really does feel like, I don't know. In fact, it was so bad. Here's another thing that I thought too, because I couldn't convince myself that there would be something weird with these tires. I started going back and I was going, okay, is something loose back here? Is anything, is the axle loose? It literally felt like there was something wrong with the bike. So anyway, if you've got one of these bikes and you're rocking the Rosso 4s, talk to me. Let me know what kind of pressure you're running, if you're having success with them, or if you had the same issues, let me know how quickly you ditched them. Look, for a sport touring bike though, maybe a sport naked bike, yeah, man, these tires would be awesome for that. I could absolutely see somebody going with these tires with that type of a machine, but not for something that you're going to be actively being aggressive with. So anyway, we're getting a set of S22s for this bike, a known value, a killer tire, and a bike that's going to really allow me to start enjoying this bike quite a bit, even more so once we spool this thing up with its full exhaust, with the velocity stacks and with the tune. But with that, guys, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up with this update. Listen, if you've made it this deep into the video, consider smashing that subscribe button. It helps the channel way more than you know. And with that, guys, hope to catch you on the next one. Y'all take care.